Yes, we're really only talking about two episodes of Trek today, because I have a lot to say about both of them. I hope the handful of regular viewers of this program don't call it quits after I tear into these episodes some consider to be top 10 Trek. This is Best of Trek, Worst of Trek. I'm your host, Dustin Wing. Getting married at 474? Logical illogic. Or Amok Time. This episode was originally ranked on this list at 660. The second watches can really change your perspective along with balancing the needs of the many in this franchise, trying to get to a fair and accurate ranking. Just because an episode has classic moments doesn't mean that when you judge it versus 754 other episodes over a 50-plus year franchise, that the throwaway parts of the episode don't bring it down as a whole. We open to Majel trying to be kind to the sickly Spock, who won't see anyone, and who promptly throws his special meal she's brought him out into the corridor. This forces Kirk to intervene and try and get to the bottom of what's happening to Spock. We as the audience now know it as Pon farr, but this 1960s TV show that could show more cleavage and short skirts than its spin-offs literally could not say the word sex, even though the show's cup runneth over with innuendo. Shouldn't have Spock known this was coming and put in for leave ahead of his special time? Is Pon farr kind of imperfect and off by a little bit every 7 years? And you never know if it's coming in April or June? Anyway, the next approximately half of runtime is devoted to changing course between Vulcan and Altair 6, where the Enterprise is ordered to go, but Spock's sex-addled brain gives the first unlawful order to change course. And then Kirk, even after being told explicitly not to by superiors. All the while, we just throw around euphemisms and get some of the ongoing one-way love story of Nurse Chapel for Spock. When they finally reach Vulcan, Spock is allowed to bring his closest friends. And even after all the racist remarks over the years, chooses McCoy, along with Kirk, to accompany him. Even though we'll be introduced to them later in this season, Sarek and Amanda haven't been invented yet, so they're not invited to this wedding. From here, every scene is dragged out as we learn about Vulcan culture. Which, the more you dig into that logical exterior of stone, the more you realize that Vulcans aren't very logical at their cores. Their rituals rival Klingons in complexity and ridiculousness. Spock comes to find out only now that the woman he's arranged to be married to is more interested in another. And he's stuck with blue balls that will kill him, unless Kirk fights him, for some reason. Kirk agrees to help Spock without realizing he's agreed to a fight to the death. I've watched this scene a few times, and the motivations and way Kirk enters the fight still don't make any more sense to me than the first time I watched it. McCoy rolls a successful speech check and convinces the great T'Pau to let him give Kirk a hypospray that would give him a leg up against a Vulcan in this rarefied air. Spock kills Kirk, and he's back to normal. Because reasons. And when he goes back to the ship, he finds Jim isn't dead because of the hypo Bones gave him that simulated death. This is the best scene in the whole episode and one of the best scenes in all of Star Trek. When Spock's face lights up and he hugs Kirk before composing himself and remembering he's Vulcan. The problem is you can't hang an entire episode on one scene. Well, it's a phenomenal scene that cements why we love the Big Three. You can't call it the perfect episode because of it. Speaking gibberish at 473, the story language. Or Darmok. I'm just going to get this out of the way up front, but it's the bit of disbelief I find it hard to suspend to make it through this episode. You can't have a language based on imagery that doesn't have an underlying base language to convey it. I understood that the first time I saw this episode at about the age of 9. For that matter, when I was a kid, I would have told you that this, Code of Honor, and Samaritan Stare were all equally as bad. This one has grown on me more as an adult, and I've tried to balance the will of the fans versus my own feelings about this episode. But an episode that's been the butt of so many Trek jokes can't truly be a great episode. The Enterprise makes formal first contact with a race known as the Children of Tama, who only speak in the titles of Shakespearean-style plays. Picard is kidnapped and forced to spend 2 days and a night with the captain of the other ship. This seems really hostile for first formal contact. Then basically nothing happens but the two ships' captains sitting in a sandpit saying the same thing over and over and calling it a television script, while watching for an invisible enemy. The thrill is truly dialed up to 11. The only part that works and even makes this episode worth being ranked this high on the list is Patrick Stewart's performance and the bits of character development for Picard. But when compared to Enterprise's Dawn, where there's always something happening in a plot that feels organic, and a bond that you feel truly formed by the end, this is a mostly wasted episode.
Ah, computer.
That program is available.
Thanks, Major. Major. Thanks, Major. Major.
Mr. Spock hasn't been eating, Doctor, and I just happened to notice.
Thanks, Major.
Tell engineering I want warp 8 or better.
We are bound for Vulcan. We'll be there in just a few days.
Thanks, Major.
Doctor, what's going on?
Doctor, please, let me finish.
Thanks, Major.
Darmok is the name of a frozen dessert on Tosna 5.
Computer, how many entries are there?
47.
Standing in peaceful way, letting go so easily.